Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. I am so excited to have Michigan's Secretary of State and, in my opinion, future governor, Jocelyn Benson back in the back room. We'll chat with her in just a second, but first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please rate and review and follow or subscribe, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So, Jocelyn Benson is Michigan's 43rd Secretary of State and is running in the 2026 election to be the state's next governor. She's become one of the nation's most prominent leaders in ensuring elections are secure and accessible. Her work overseeing Michigan's 2020 and 2022 general elections earned her national recognition, including the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award and the Presidential Citizens Medal. She also implemented new voting rights for all eligible Michiganders prior to the 2020 election, including the right to vote absentee, and she oversaw more than 250 audits after the election, all of which affirmed its integrity and accuracy. At 36, she was appointed Dean of Wayne State University Law School in Detroit, becoming the youngest woman in U.S. history to lead a top 100 accredited law school, and continues to serve as vice chair of the advisory board for the Levin Center at Wayne Law, which she founded with former U.S. Senator Carl Levin. She is the author of the book State Secretaries of State, Guardians of the Democratic Process, and is a frequent TV news commentator. And she's here today to discuss her new book, The Purposeful Warrior, Standing Up for What's Right When the Stakes Are High, which goes on sale May 6th. Jocelyn, welcome back into the back room.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to be here. Thanks, Andy.
So I want to start off with your book, The Purposeful Warrior, Standing Up for What's Right When the Stakes Are High. It's on sale May 6th, and I just need to tell you how much I enjoyed and appreciated this book, how valuable and inspiring I found it. And it resonated with me so much because it really helped me to understand my own journey through tragedy and trauma and the life decisions that I've made for myself. And the book made me realize, I'm reading this book and I'm like, damn, I'm a purposeful warrior. Like, you know, when you go through stuff and it could be horrible, and then you somehow find a way to try to spin it into some gold, especially if it helps other people.
Yeah.
So I feel like the book is such an incredible gift for people and such a powerful message to give them.
Thank you. It means so much. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, it started out as just a book I was writing to share my take on what it was like to stand up to a president and protect the votes in 2020. And it really evolved into a book about the power we all have to take the challenges that life throws at us and leverage that to create more strength within us, to create a better world for the people in our world, the people we love, our communities, the people we fight for, to inspire others to do the same. And in that, really, one of my, I hope everyone reads the book and takes away that they have always the power to define who they are, even in turbulent, challenging times, but also that in challenging times, we can find an opportunity for growth, for strength, for resilience, to get better. And if we can do that, we can even start to see, and this is really the impact of 2020 on me, attacks or challenges or even fearful moments as one step along the way towards our purpose, towards greater strength, towards the ability to make an institution or anything stronger than it was before. And all it really requires of us is to be willing to take the next step in furtherance of courage, strength, purpose, and determination, not to step back out of fear or a desire to retreat. And so, yeah, that's been my life, whether it was in Alabama, being undercover and worried that I was going to get killed by white supremacists and neo-Nazis I was investigating, or standing up to the president of the United States or armed protesters outside my home. It's all just, okay, this is happening. What am I going to do? And how can I use this as an opportunity to get stronger, better, more purposeful, and move my mission forward?
So that sort of leads into the question of, what is a purposeful warrior?
It is someone who is determined to be the hero of their own story, and not allow the uncertainties of life and things we can't control to take us off of our ability and our power to define who we are. Only we have that power. And even in challenging and uncertain moments, we always have the power to decide how we will respond and what we will do next. And if we can consistently build, and it doesn't have to be every moment. We can rise and fall and have our own challenges as well. But if we can consistently build a pattern, build a muscle memory even of responding to those turbulent times with the determination to keep going in furtherance of our purpose, that's a warrior, right? To find that warrior ethos and to remember also that that's who you are. Because so much of life is designed to make us feel like we're small, especially times like this. Our voices don't matter. And yet we can all always choose to be warriors. We all have that warrior ethos in us. And if we use that warrior ethos in furtherance of our values, of what we want to fight for, improving other people's lives, there's nothing we can't do. And there's no challenge we as an individual, as a community, as a country can't overcome.
This question I want to ask you is sort of rooted in my own experience with trauma. And when I bounced back, people would say, "Oh, you did this, you did that. How did you do?" And I honestly, my answer was, "I don't know." Right? I don't know. And so I'm curious to know from your perspective, must you be wired a certain way to be a purposeful warrior? Or is this truly something we can all not just aspire to, but actually achieve? Because there are people who get shit thrown their way and they can't bounce back. It destroys them.
It is a muscle that we can build, even if it starts out as weak, or even if there are times that destroy us. We always have a choice. We always have a choice. And that recognizing that lies in our recognition that we always have power. And the only time we don't is when we give it up because we believe that it doesn't exist for us. And so it's hard to say, because at the same time, part of what I write about is that it's also okay to sit with anger and terror and trauma. You being a warrior and choosing to be a warrior doesn't mean we run through that or deny it or say this trauma hasn't affected me. And it actually means you sit with that as long as you need to, whether it's a day or a week or a year or 10 years. But to always know that at some point you can still choose your next step. And every time, all I can say, I can't advise anyone else what to do. All I can say is every time I've taken a next step, every time I've experienced those challenges, and no matter how long it took me to get there, chose in step 2 to say, wait a minute, I still have power here. Wait a minute. Not everything is dark and hopeless. Wait a minute. I can still contribute to making other people's lives easier. And then switching to figuring out the how. Every time I've done that, it's been easier to do it the next time. And what I've tried to do is build a life where that's who I am, right? I'll take whatever life throws at me. And I had a husband who was serving in Afghanistan, right? And I had to be prepared at any moment to get that call that he wasn't going to be coming home. I could use that, I could allow that to just say, I'm not going out. I'm just going to, I could allow that fear to consume me. Or I could say, all right, if I'm feeling like this, others are too. How can I help them? And start an organization, as I did for military spouses. And in doing so, it actually helps us through our own trauma. It actually helps us find that strength to emerge out of that cocoon into a brighter path that not only gives us strength, but enables other people's lives to be improved too.
Yeah. And so how does one become a purposeful warrior? You do a really good job in the book of outlining basic tenets of who these people are and how to achieve this. Give us a little glimpse into that.
It begins with choosing courage over fear. And the sort of first chapter, I talk about that it's about choosing courage in those times that we're fearful and what that means. Secondly, it means refusing to be silent and standing up to bullies who would seek to confuse us or make us feel like we don't have power. It sort of starts with not allowing anyone else to define who we are, and also calling out bullies who would try to take us off our path. And then thirdly, it would involve embracing challenges with grit and with grace. I talk about the sort of seemingly paradox of being strong and also empathetic, but how important it is to actually be both, even simultaneously, so that you can be courageous, but also kind, And there's much more strength in that than just being one or the other. And then finally, I think, certainly recognizing the importance of taking things that make us angry and channeling that into action or purpose. But along the way, recognizing that every time we choose to take the courageous path over the fearful one, every time we choose to stand up to a bully and speak out on behalf of an injustice, or not allow someone else to define who we are, every time we choose to move forward with courage and with empathy and with grace, we build a resilience and a strength that enables us to persevere and actually build a life as a purposeful warrior. So a big thing I talk about in many points in the book is that it all begins with our next step. And if we can take that step as individuals and then help others take that step too, we can build a community of purposeful warriors that can truly achieve anything. And there's so many stories throughout history that that's exactly when we all have come together with that warrior spirit as a community, as a country. That's when we've really thrived, and as a democracy. So my hope would be we find that individual strength of these principles to be a warrior for ourselves, but also we see in this moment the power of all of us collectively being warriors on behalf of ourselves, the people we love, and the communities we believe in. And if we can collectively do that, we can emerge from this dark moment in our country to a stronger and more prosperous future.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question before about wiring is because, I think there's a lot of people out there who just don't think that they can do that. And so they look to other people to help them navigate through a lot of stuff. So I'm curious, do you ever think about and appreciate your role as a purposeful warrior in light of the fact that a lot of people aren't? And does this place a heavy burden on you when you realize that it is so important for you to continue your fight, because knowing that you are not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for a lot of other people?
Yes. And it's rooted not in sort of my role vis-a-vis other people, but in the role that other people have played in my life, because there have been many times in which I wanted to give up and walk away and say, this is too hard. And every time I go through a day like that or a moment like that and choose to keep marching anyway, I find the strength to do it again the next time. But it's not just me and my own brain necessarily, the own wiring that has enabled that choice. It's, looking to J.B. Pritzker when he speaks out against, the what we're seeing. It's looking to, reading about Bobby Kennedy's 1968 presidential campaign and how he stood up and lived all these principles, took on bullies, and spoke in furtherance of truth. So for me, it's actually critical that I have other stories. I have other people that I can think of. Viola Liuzzo, a woman who was from Detroit and was killed in the Selma to Montgomery voting rights march, is, for me, someone I think about a lot. Like, what would she do? What do I owe her? What do I owe John Lewis and the folks who stood at the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge so that I can continue to make their work meaningful? So it's, the connectivity. I think that the first chapter in the book is essentially the recognition that we're all in this together, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and recognizing our interconnectivity, that anyone's fight is everyone's fight, means that we're all part of this larger fabric. And so I'm grateful if I'm able to inspire others to fight for democracy or for a better world. But for me, I'm only able to do it because others have inspired me too. And that is not just one dose of inspiration. It's got to be continual for all of us, because we're all going to want to fall over or sit down every once in a while, and we can pick each other up. I just ran the London Marathon a couple of days ago. And right around mile 25, I had a great race. Right around mile 25, someone bumped into me and I fell over. And two things happened in that moment. One, I was on the ground and I thought, I'm hurting. My knee hurts. I'm done. And I've never not finished a marathon. But in that moment, I was like, I can't go on. I'm hurting. My elbow hurts. How am I even going to get up? And then what happened next that enabled me to choose to get up and finish the race was, number one, I heard the Rocky theme song start in my headphones. They're like, dun, 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 dun. And I was like, okay. But again, art, right? That whole story of Rocky is about, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. So that happened. And then secondly, 5 people came up to me, reached out their hand, and one even came up behind me and brought me up. And I, stood up back on my feet and then started running again. So that story, and that's why I love running, because it can be a metaphor for life. But that story was a reminder that I needed in this moment, even that, yeah, we're going to get knocked down through reasons that we can't control. And it's all about what we choose to do next. And whether it's other people or art or our own strength, we can build a life that enables us to choose to keep going forward anyway, every time we get knocked down.
Yeah, I'm going to detract just for a second because you ran a marathon 8 months pregnant.
I did.
I sitting here, I am just like, oh my God, how did you do that? Because maybe this is why women are the stronger, better species. But I still cannot fathom how you did that.
One step at a time. I didn't. The other thing I found, I've run now close to 40 marathons. Every time I've run a marathon, I finished. But every time I start not believing I can finish, no matter what. And so when I ran the marathon in Boston, when I was 8 months pregnant, I did not believe for a minute that I was going to finish it. And every time, and again, this is metaphor for life. We don't necessarily start out on a journey saying, I'm going to win, I'm going to achieve this. We start out on a journey because that next step is the right thing to do. And for me, taking that first step was the right thing to do because I wanted to be able to show others that you didn't have to just give up. You could still try. Even if there was no one who'd come before you who'd done it, we can still demonstrate that what seems impossible can be possible. And you do it smartly, and in this case, with the doctor's advice and training along the way, and with a husband who was on a bike next to me the whole time, ready to call the doctor if I needed it. I did it smartly, but I just did it one step at a time. And every time I achieved a mile, I was like, I have run 2 miles of the Boston Marathon, 8 months pregnant. That's awesome. No matter what happens next, I can always say that I did that. And so it was that mindset as well. Then when I got to the halfway point, I was like, I've run the half, I'm good. I'll keep running, but I'm good. And then I saw the sit go sign, which is the quintessential end of the race. And I was like, okay, let's go. And I talk about this in the book. I turned to the man next to me at that point, right around mile 25. And he was an 80-year-old gentleman who at the same time, when we started this race, we kind of looked at each other and were like, I think it's let's see what happens. And we both had made it to the end. And so it was also this reminder of community that we can kind of support each other, celebrate each other, and together achieve things that we never would have thought possible when we started. And that's why I ran. I wanted to demonstrate all of those concepts and see what I was capable of.
It's incredible. So you're a politician, but this is not a political book per se. It is so much more than that. It's really about your life and the experiences, one of which you just shared, which has both incredible highs and incredible lows and how you've navigated through all of that. But you mentioned something before about the times we're living in right now. And this book is just so timely. Your message is so timely.
Yeah. I mean, again, I started out writing this because in the aftermath of 2020, we had endured so much and I just wanted to tell the story. And then over the years, as I tried to figure out how more stuff kept happening, and then I started to realize there were more stories I wanted to tell throughout my life that people didn't know. So it became really a call to action for all of us. And I think whether we're in a moment like this, which is particularly turbulent and dark and chaotic and uncertain, or when we're not, when we're in even a seeming times of peace, if you could use that word, right? There's always going to be things that happen to us. You get tripped and fall at the end of a marathon. There's always going to be things out of our control that happen to kind of to take us off our course. And we always have the power to define who we are. And what I've tried to do with my whole life, not just in that moment in 2020, is to say, this is who I am, no matter what title I have or whether I'm a journalist or a dean or a politician or a lawyer. I'm always going to be a warrior, right? I'm always going to be someone who fights to ensure other voices are heard. Everyone recognizes their own power. And then I thought, what if we all did that? What if we were a nation of warriors? And isn't that when we've been that nation, when we've been at our best, right? And standing up for who we are and what we believe in. That's what the civil rights movement was about, right? That's what women's suffrage was about. And so what's our movement in this moment? It starts and ends with us all saying we're going to be warriors for a better world. We're going to be warriors for justice, for fairness, for opportunity. And I think that's why I'm a Democrat too, because I think that's the ethos of the Democratic Party. But at the same time, it's the ethos of America, and it's when we've always been great.
As I read through the opening of the book, listening to you recount in detail the night that angry, armed Trump supporters descended on your home, I was so awed by you and your courage. Tell us about that night a little bit. If you can sort of take us back to, you know, once you realized what was happening and how you thought it might go.
Yeah, it was really scary. I mean, I start with the phone call, which I would remember exactly where I was. I was on the call on the phone with Dana Nessel, and we had just heard from Michigan State Police at around 8 o'clock that night that a female elected official was going to see people protesting outside her home. And we got on the phone and we were like, well, who's it going to be? Is it going to be you or me? Right. And then you started to hear the noises outside my home. And it wasn't until that moment, but I was like, it's me. It's good. It's me. And, I'll never forget. I mean, that was really a bonding point for Dana and I, in which she was on the phone with me the entire time. Like, what do you need? Making calls, calling law enforcement, saying, where are you? It took 45 minutes from when those folks showed up out to my house at 9 o'clock for any police officer to get to my home. And I live a mile and a half from a police station. We called 911 right away and still. So it was, only for Dana and a neighborhood security guard who stood on the front porch. That was really all the protection I had, that my family had, for a good 45 minutes. And so that was scary, right? That's fear, right? That's that. And at the same time, I'm a mom at that point of a 4-year-old son who's, we're decorating the Christmas tree that night and watching how the Grinch stole Christmas. And so I also know, I have to interface with him in a way that keeps him calm and feeling safe and secure. So we just calmly brought him upstairs, started running the bathwater loudly to drown out the shouts into the bullhorns that could be heard. He didn't know a thing that was going on. And so that happened. And as that was unfolding, and as I was on the phone with Dana and like trying to wonder when law enforcement was going to get there and then what was going to happen when they did, was at any point a stray bullet going to go through our home? Like, it was just a whole entire hour of uncertainty and fear. And then I had a moment close to the end of that time where I thought and realized these folks aren't protesting me. They're not here because they want to kill me. They are here because they don't like the will of the people. They are protesting democracy. They are protesting the promise that the will of the people is who chooses the president. And I will stand guard over that promise every day of my life, no matter what it takes. And I found strength in that connection to what the fight really was. And out of that, was able to find kind of a way out of the fear and a way to be courageous. And ultimately, as soon as the police came, close to 10 o'clock, people dispersed. We did a debrief with the police afterwards and set up security provisions in my home so it doesn't happen again. It has happened again. We've been swatted many times. We've had bomb threats and all the rest. But every time it's happened, I more quickly than ever go back to okay, this is what they're protesting, and I will fight to defend our democracy every step of the way.
There's so many critical life lessons and words of inspiration in this book. No spoilers here because we want folks to buy the book. But I'd love to just throw out a couple of things and have you quickly explain them. For example, purposeful rage.
Yeah. It can be really easy for anger to knock us off our course. And rage can do that in a way that would enable us to miss an opportunity to do good with that rage. And I talk about after 9/11, my husband chose to go into the military and serve. Because he was so angry and upset and wanted to do something about it. And his purpose in that point was trying to save other young men who are choosing to fight and women choosing to fight in combat to bring them home safe and to keep them from getting killed as a medic and as a combat soldier as he served. So he was able to find, and I think we all can find ways to drive and allow rage that we're feeling at any point and make it useful in a way that furthers our own purpose or helps others or finds something productive to come out of it. It doesn't have to happen instantly. I think it's important to sit in that rage, but it's also helpful for our purpose if we find a way out of it through a focus on what we can do better as a result of the trauma that may have led to the rage or the challenge that provoked it to begin with.
Mm-hmm. And this is my favorite because I think it's brilliant. Personal board of directors.
Yeah. I think, so much of being able to make that individual choice to be a warrior requires us to be surrounded with things that will inspire us and remind us of our mission along the way. Whether it's those folks who reach their hand up and pull you up off the street when you fall down in a marathon, or music or art that reminds you of who you are. To me, the through line is who's going to help you stay focused on your mission and what do you need to surround yourself with? Because so many things that you can surround yourself with inadvertently would steer you off that course. You can purposefully, intentionally say, I want these 5 people to be on my personal board of directors. And they may not always agree with me. They may and should push back at times. But just like a board of directors of a nonprofit or a business, their goal is to help you stay focused on your mission with all of life's chaos and confusion and distractions conspiring to take you off of it. And so it's been critical for me to build that. It was advice that I actually got from a Harvard Law School professor when I was in law school. And she said, you're going to go through life as a lawyer, and people are going to want to use your power as a lawyer to further sometimes even injustice. And you have to surround yourself with a board of directors yourself that it's going to help you stay focused on using your law degree to do good.
So you're now running to be Michigan's next governor. So much of the political discourse right now focuses on national issues and concerns and fears. Talk about the critical importance of statewide and local politics and governing.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you said that, I just thought so much of the struggles that people are feeling right now to not be able to buy a home in the community they want to live in, or send their kid to school and know they're going to come home safely at the end of the day, or just be able to put food on the table and afford childcare. Those struggles are local. Those struggles are real. And those struggles that are things that governors can uniquely do something about, in particular by making government work better and more efficiently, but also by investing in programs that will help drive down the cost of housing and eliminate regulations that drive up the cost, not just of building homes, but starting new businesses. So I'm really excited to be a governor and that will continue to stand up for our rights and our freedoms, just as I've done as Secretary of State, whether it's our reproductive health care or our ability to vote in any election, no matter who we vote for. But on top of that, I want to expand my work to making sure government shows up everywhere you need it, helps you on your way, and then gets out of the way when you don't need it. That means, working to make it easier to start a business, but not having onerous regulations to make it overly difficult to open up that first restaurant door. And I think this is an opportunity for Democrats too in the next decade to redefine government as something that can make your life easier and then get out of the way, save you time, save you money, and then get out of the way. I hope to demonstrate that proof of concept, that theory as governor, just as I've done as Secretary of State. And I think in turbulent times like this, where the reckless economic decisions of this administration are causing a lot of pain, and driving up the cost of living in our state exponentially, governors are the ones who can be the firewalls to protect the people in our states, not just from the fear and the terror that the divisiveness of this moment is invoking, but also the economic challenges as well that we can address and alleviate.
So you're running for the seat that will be vacated by the current governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who's finishing up her last term. This week marked Trump's first 100 days. He flew to your state, held a rally. She's been taking some heat from some folks on the left for meeting with him, for speaking at the rally. I happen to support what she did. What's your thinking on this?
I think, well, specifically, the day President Trump is ready to admit that he lost the 2020 election, that's the day that I'll stand up there with him and say, thank you for acknowledging that truth. And look, I'm running for governor in a state where Donald Trump won and I also won twice. And so it's a purple state. It does require us to find partnerships across the aisle and work with anyone and everyone who would help us drive down the cost of living for our residents and also, ensure the government's working for everyone. But that's not what the last 100 days has been like in Michigan under this administration. And I think it's critical for governors to talk about that, to talk about the pain and the struggle that our residents are feeling and show up for them, not necessarily to further any partisan or political goal, but to simply demonstrate that I'm on your side and my job is to make your life easier. It's also interesting because, I'm a military spouse. Mm-hmm. And so I get 100% how important it is. And many of us, Democrats in particular, Alyssa Slotkin, Gary Peters, Debbie Stabenow, have fought for the funding for Selfridge for years. So I get the importance of that. I think there's just other ways, given the dual purpose of that particular visit, which was to celebrate something that was not worth celebrating in our state, the reckless economic policies that have really hurt a lot of Michiganders on both sides of the aisle. So I think it's important for governors to continue to stand up for who we are, for our rights and freedoms, to speak out against anyone, anytime, anywhere who would try to, with lies and other tactics, rip apart the very foundation of who we are as a country. And this administration is doing that. And at the same time, this administration is implementing reckless economic policies that are hurting our people. And I, as governor, would continue to consistently talk about that while also working with anyone and everyone who will help me alleviate that pain that this administration is causing.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation that I think governors today find themselves in because on the one hand, you want to call out this tyranny that we're experiencing. On the other hand, you have a job to do to protect and defend your constituents, the citizens of your state, and trying to get things done. And it's like, I don't know. So to me, it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And
I hear you. I just don't think when it comes to defending our democracy in a moment like this, there's any other path other than to stand and defend and speak out against anyone who would try to make people afraid to vote, fearful of losing their rights, fearful, so I think there has to be a consistent message that until the attacks on democracy and our Constitution and our rule of law cease, governors have to continue to call out this administration for what they're doing to the foundation of who we are as a nation.
Jocelyn, congrats again on the book, The Purposeful Warrior, Standing Up for What's Right When the Stakes Are High. It's on sale May 6th.
Yeah, Tuesday, May 6th, it drops. I'm really excited to have all these stories out there, really excited to go on a book tour all around our state and hear from folks about their own stories. And my hope is that everyone who reads it can really just ask themselves, what am I going to do to take a step forward as a warrior for myself, for the people I love, for the communities I'm a part of? What does that look like? It doesn't mean fighting every battle. It simply just means responding to those challenging times in our lives with a determination to stand up anyway and fight for who we are and for our values. And then if we all did that, just imagine the power that we would have to ensure a truly better world for all.
Yeah, look, I really think it should be required reading on colleges and universities because of the message that it should instill in young people. And good luck with the campaign. And do come back and talk with us again.
Anytime, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Take care. This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander, and our logo was designed by Cricket Langell. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.